Hello, how's everyone doing? Happy Wednesday, 2 days before Halloween, which is a big deal in our house. Our boys are so excited and have their costumes all ready. And I've got my cool skeleton shirt on in honor. Anyway, as you come on, say hello and tell me where you're from. My name is Chelsea Evans and I am the furniture artist and owner on Apple Blossom Way. And today we are working on an antique cabinet, which is really cool. So I have a few projects going on today, and two of the projects are for a client. One is a really cool hutch that we're flipping, and I'll do the reveal probably later today on my page. And then this one is an antique cabinet that has been in her family for a long time, and she wanted to keep it and kind of add a little bit of two different aspects to it. So on the outside, we have kind of like a rustic stone finish. It's really has warm tones underneath and then really cool white and pale grays over top. And part of that is because her grandma's last name was Stone. She has a grandma Stone, so she wanted to do that stone finish on the outside. It still needs to be glazed, so all of the colors will really pop and you'll see a lot of the texture come through. But she also wanted to do something delicate because it was her grandmother's as well. So we are going to add some florals on the inside, and I feel like that will give it a good balance with our really rustic textured exterior we have here, and then some colorful florals on the inside. So these are really old glass panes. They kind of have they're not really crystal clear, and they have a little bit of bubbling in them, which is cool because it speaks of the age of the cabinet. But you can still see obviously well enough through it that you'll be able to see our floral. So we are going to use the Wondrous Floral II transfer on the inside of the cabinet and on the back. This is the perfect transfer to use on this. I love the colors. See how the colors have some really nice, beautiful warm tones. We've got some warm pinks, these really beautiful golden yellows, some greens, and one little blue down here. So overall, it's a pretty warm palette. And so I felt like it would go great with this. Now, this transfer comes in 3 pieces. So every transfer is different. And if you guys have used this transfer, give me a thumbs up or drop a comment too, so that I can see. So it comes in 3 pieces. There's the top that has a finished edge, and then it meets up a middle section and a bottom, which is going to divide up perfectly in our 3 shelves here on our cabinet. So I'm just going to slide you guys back just a little bit right here so that you can see what I'm doing. Every time I apply a transfer, the tools that I have on hand are, I always have a pair of scissors so that I can trim the transfer. I always have my burnishing tool, and I also used it as my paint salt wash stir stick earlier, double duty. And then I always have sandpaper. This is just 220 fine grit sandpaper. This is from Surf Prep. I love their sandpapers. You can use any type of sandpaper. I do recommend it being 220 grit or higher. And I have it out for 2 reasons. The first is that the interior of this cabinet, this is the original paint. I decided to leave it because since it's been in her family for a long time, I figured it was a family member that painted it. And I liked the creamy color, and I think it looks good with this exterior. So I thought it would be kind of fun to leave it, because it's a family member originally did it. So I thought that was special. So I'm going to take this sandpaper, and I just went over it and I roughed it up just a little bit. This is gonna give a little bit more of a grip to my transfer, and it will apply much easier. Because you never know, and especially if there might be buildup. So I cleaned it and then I sanded it just a little bit just to give that grip. I also have it out for after I apply a transfer. Sometimes I like to distress it a little bit. It helps with adhesion. It kind of gives it a worn antique look. If you have texture from paint or from a wood, then it will help to bring that through and make it look like it was inlaid and not just stuck on top of the paint. So that's why I have my sandpaper and my transfer. So those three and the transfer. All right. I also usually have tape handy. I'm not going to need it for today's project, but some of the transfers have 6, not just 3, but they'll have 6 sheets, and you want to line them up and kind of tape it out to see how it's going to lay out on your project. And so I will use painter's tape and have that handy as well. So those are your basic tools that you're going to want when you apply transfer. And this is going to divide it perfectly, so I'm going to put the top here. I'm just going to kind of lay it out so you guys can see. And I'm just going to let the shelves divide our transfer pieces. Let's see. So, and this will be fun because it will kind of be a peekaboo. You'll be able to see it through the glass windows and then see it much more clearly when you open the doors. And then we'll, let's see. Actually, I want to do it the other way. That's the nice thing about this transfer is you can go make either one the top or the bottom. So I think that's the one. I want the blue on the bottom. It also does show in the picture too, but I think I want the blue on the bottom. So let's see how this looks. And I may change my mind. We may go back the other way. Let's see. Nope, I want it the other way. You guys are like, this is a joke. Well, now you know you can use it both ways. Yeah, I think I like it better that way. Okay. I like it. I think I like it better because you can see this one has these smaller florals that kind of stick up, and I feel like that looks nice. It's a little bit more heavy and bulky at the base, which I like because it will kind of help guide your eye up and to the top, which typically when you have a piece of furniture, that's the way you want people to look. All right. So, and I am not seeing any of your comments. Just a heads up, sometimes that happens when you do a live. If you guys have questions, please ask them. When we are all done, I can go back and look and answer any questions you might have. So, all right. So I'm gonna start with the top one and kind of center it. And I'm going to cut off this bottom edge. So all of the transfers have, it's like a bleed edge, bleed through. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off. And then I'll be able to line my transfer up right directly against the shelf. So there was a Wondrous Floral I, and I actually have that on my side door. In my house, I have a double door, and so I have a storm door over the top, and I placed that transfer on the inside bottom of the storm door. It looks really pretty when you open it up. And it's beautiful just like this one. It just has different color tones to it. Hi from Colorado, San Diego. Hello, hi Maria. All right, so I've got my little bottom edge trimmed. I'm not gonna worry about trimming anything else. And I'm gonna kind of stand up, move the camera here, and I'm gonna stand over here and apply this so I can kind of be out of your way. And I'll bring you just a little bit closer so that you guys can see this. There. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and peel the whole thing off. Let's see. And carefully not touch the back to anything. All right. And then if you look closely, you can see this has a little kind of a T-shaped mark. This is showing me where my center is. So I'm gonna line that center up right directly with my center here. and then kind of eyeball it. And just put it right towards the bottom. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then I'll push from the middle out and then down. Hey Roz, how's it going? Okay. Perfect. And then I'm just going to take my tool and burnish it. Like about this transfer, it's a little bit hard to see. I can bring the camera closer, is there's little tiny water droplets on the leaves, and I think that's really beautiful. It's just the attention to detail in these is really just amazing, really beautiful. Just peel it up slowly. And if anything doesn't stick, I put it back down and finish it a little bit more. Stand in your way. There's a little bit of texture on the back, my wood back piece. Just because it's an old cabinet, the wood is not perfectly smooth anymore. It's aged with time. So I just have to make sure I get that all in the crevices there. Oh, that is so, so pretty. So after I got it all on there, I go back over with my hand first, and I kind of just rub it, make sure everything is sticking where it needs to be. The most important thing is you don't want any bubbles or any air or distance between your transfer and the furniture. If there is, then when you apply your top coat, it might crackle, it might bubble, or have issues. So always push it down with your hand after, and then burnish it with your tool again to make sure that it is completely stuck to it and there's no air in between. And as long as you do this, then you shouldn't have any issues when you apply any water-based top coat over the top. So let me close these and see how that's gonna look. And once we glaze this, it'll change it a little bit again, but see how it's just kind of, you can kind of catch a glimpse of it. And then when you open those doors, you can see a few more inches on each side. And it kind of is really a nice little surprise in there. Isn't that beautiful? I really love these transfers. Joanna, I use Wise Owl varnish. That is my go-to. It's a water-based top coat. It's very, very durable. You can use the matte or satin finish, depending on what you prefer. I do carry it on my site, appleblossomway.com. You can find it there. But any water-based sealant will work. I have used some different ones, and Wise Owl by far is my favorite as far as sealing transfers. Okay, so on our second one, I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna cut off my edges. Now, it's not going to completely match up. It's gonna be a little bit short of it, and that's okay. Yes, yeah, Roz is right. So if you're nervous that you might, if you have a freshly painted surface that's not top coated, and by freshly painted, I mean like a day or two old, and you don't want to scuff your paint, you can place the clear sheet back over it and then rub it with your tool to burnish it the second time instead of just rubbing your tool right onto the paint. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do. But I'll just go right along and cut off that little tiny clear edge. I don't have to do this, but I like to. Another thing you can do is if you have edges that you don't love that they show, you can glaze the edges of your piece and blend them into whatever you've painted, into your piece of furniture. And if you guys would like, I don't think we'll have time to do that today, but I will be doing a live next week. And if you want me to show you, to demonstrate and show you how I use glaze to hide and blend edges of transfers in my furniture, then drop me a comment. And if I get a few of you that want that, then that's what I'll do for my next live, so I can show you guys. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna make sure this is the right way, although they're not gonna touch. And then I'll show you. It's not gonna totally fill up. I'm gonna have a gap. So I'm just gonna center it, and then I can glaze to fill in that tiny little gap. It's very small, and I'm not too worried about it. They're probably gonna put things on these shelves too, so just careful not to touch anything to the back of it. It will stick. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, center it. Looks pretty close. Okay. And then I do the same. So I'm going to start from my center here and then slowly move out. Oh, that is so beautiful. I just love this design. It's really, really nice. You can put this on fabric. I think this would be really cool on a pillow. So on like a throw pillow, so you could put it on your fabric. You could paint the fabric first if you wanted to, then put the transfer down, and then you can hit it with a spray sealer. Some of like the Krylon matte finish spray sealer is a great one to use over the top. Yes. Okay, then that's what we'll do in my next live. I will show you guys how I glaze out my edges to hide them. It's a good little trick. Those of you that do a lot of transfers know sometimes it's hard to hide those edges, especially on darker colors, blacks and things. Sometimes it's harder to hide an edge. not like the most pleasant sound to just sit and listen to, is it? But it sure is pretty. Okay, let's see how that is sticking up here. Other requests for things you want to see live, drop them in the comments, because I would really like to do things that you guys want to learn or see. And sometimes I don't always know what people want. Sometimes I'm doing a project I'm working on, and sometimes I'm kind of just randomly grabbing something to give you guys ideas or show you. And so that is always helpful. It's the sound we all know and love. That's true, Roz. That is true. So I'll show you what Roz said. I push it down with my hand. If I'm okay with maybe scuffing my paint, or I'm gonna distress with sandpaper after, I'll just go ahead and go right over the transfer with my tool. If I'm worried or I want to be more delicate, I can set my paper back down and I can hold it in place, and I can use it as a barrier. And then I can go back over it that way. So depending on the piece you're working on, you may want to place that down, or you may not need to. Ooh, that is so pretty. Look at that, you guys. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. Okay, we got one more. I'm gonna move this down just a bit, and then we will do our bottom transfer. And then I'm going to distress this and show you all how I distress it with sandpaper and kind of the effect, the change that it looks like when it's sanded versus not. So you guys can see that and decide if that's something that you want to do with your piece in the future. And I'm going to cut this edge too, so I can go right, I kind of butt right up against my shelf. This makes it easier to line that edge up when I cut off that bleed line. Yeah, this is probably, this one, the Wondrous Floral and the Wondrous Floral II, which is the one we're using right now, are my favorites. They are just beautiful. Really, really stunning transfers. All right. Okay, so add the third one in, and you guys can see how pretty it's gonna be. I'm so excited. Okay, and I'm just gonna eyeball it again. This also has the little black T mark down here at the bottom, so I can center up my pole here and the little black cross mark of the base. The newer transfers have grid lines, so it's easier. I could measure my interior here, and then I could mark exactly on the grid line where I needed it to go, and I could get it exactly centered where I needed it to be. So that is helpful. This one just doesn't, I got this before they added the grid lines, so that's why it's not on there. All right, let's add this one on, and then we will distress it. I'm gonna bring you guys down a little notch. There. There we go. Being more stubborn. And you never know what kind of things they had in the cabinet or on it. That's why I cleaned it and sanded it, but I may have needed to sand it a little bit more. You know, this could have, you never know if it was used like in a place that had products in it, that had any kind of waxy substances that can repel it. So always keep that in mind. Make sure you clean it and at least scuff sand it before you apply your transfer, if you're applying over like original paint or original finish, so you can avoid any of the adhesion issues. Beautiful. Go back over it one more time. Okay. Now we are ready to scuff sand and distress it a little bit. Love to see how to use individual or smaller sections rather than full sheets, or even how to use multiple transfers to create a fuller look. Yeah, that would be a good one. We could do that. Yeah, so keep them coming. Other suggestions, things you guys want to see. Every Wednesday I go live, so I would love to have things you guys want to see to show you. All right, so I am going to distress this. We could leave it just as is, but I feel like this is an antique cabinet, and I kind of want it to look more aged or more natural with the textured outside and everything. So this is 220 fine sand grit sandpaper. You can use 220 or higher. Do not go harsher than 220 grit. If I was to use 80 grit or 100 grit sandpaper right over the top, I'm gonna scratch my transfer and leave big scratch lines in it. And that won't look distressed, it will just look scratched. If you use 220 or higher, it's going to just lightly distress it and not really scratch your transfer. So I typically just fold mine in half. If you have sanding pads, rad pads from Surf Prep are perfect for this. I just didn't have any on hand. So you can use sandpaper. I just fold it in half like this, and then I really gently just go over the transfer. Now, let's see if I can get a little bit closer and show you guys the difference. All right, so, okay. So here is, where are we? This is our distressed transfer. You can see the little tiny white marks of our original color that's kind of coming through just a little bit. It makes it look a little bit more aged and a little bit more vintage. You can see it a little bit on the leaves here as well. Okay, and then over here on this side is not distressed. And you can see it's brighter, and you can see the leafy designs, even the little water droplets on the leaves. So that is what distressing our transfer is going to do. It's just gonna mute it down just a tiny bit and let those original colors come through, which I think looks really nice. But it kind of depends on your style and what you're doing. So I am gonna go and distress it. Now, because I had to cut my transfer smaller and there's an edge between where the shelf hits it, I'm gonna distress down here a little bit more. And even if it takes up a little bit of the edge of the transfer, I'm okay with that. Just because I feel like it'll give it, instead of such a sharp, harsh edge, it'll kind of help to break that up a little bit. And give it more of an aged, authentic look instead of such a harsh, new edge. There we go. And the more I sand and distress that, the, see, can you guys see that bottom edge? Now it doesn't look so harsh. Even a little bit of my wood grain came through down here to distress through the paint a little. So instead of having that really harsh edge, it's much more soft and kind of fades into the piece. All right. So hopefully you learned something that was helpful to you today. And please continue to leave comments with suggestions, ideas, things you want to learn, and I will check back before my next live. The next live we will plan on doing glazing around the edges of the transfer to show you how to blend it into the piece better. So that will be kind of fun. And then, yeah, it's gonna be super pretty. I'm gonna get this all glazed and sealed up, and then I will post a picture so all of you can see. You can follow me on Apple Blossom Way on Facebook and see the other projects I'll be posting as well today. And all the products I used you can find on my site, appleblossomway.com. As far as the transfer I used, you can go to redesignwithprima.com and look for a retailer near you and snag up the Wondrous Floral II transfer because it is gorgeous. All right, you guys have a good day. Thanks for joining me. See ya.